In this video, I'm going to summarize every single quest for the Death Knight starting zone. So mainly this is for all of those who skipped reading the quest lore, and want to know what they missed out on, but don't want to go back and start a new character and read everything over. Also want to mention that this is a compilation video of all the episodes I covered in the past. So for those who want to watch everything in one sitting, well, here you go. Having said that, let's jump in and find out what you maybe missed in World of Warcraft. You start off near the Eastern Plaguelands, in an area called the Scarlet Enclave, high above in a building called Akaris the Ebonhold. The first thing you do is speak to the Lich King himself. He says that he has granted you immortality, so that you may herald in a new dark age for the Scourge. Below you, the Scarlet Crusade is rushing to undo the Lich King's work, and Light's Hope stands defiantly against you. As a Death Knight, you will become a force of retribution. After the Lich King is done talking to you, he wants you to report to Instructor Rasuvius, in the heart of Akaris. Once you find Rasuvius, who likes to run a lot, he tells you that the single most important piece of equipment for a Death Knight is the Rune Blade, and that it is through the weapon that a Death Knight commands the powers of Frost, Blood, and Unholy. From here, he wants you to search the racks for a battle-worn sword, and use it on a rune forge to craft your first rune blade. So now you look for a sword on the rack, and use it to forge the blade. After that's done, Rasuvius commends you on your first weapon, and says that with it, you'll sow the seeds of chaos and destruction. He then rewards you with 3 different swords, so that you have a variety to choose from. Now that you know the art of rune forging, you're able to engrave runes of power on your weaponry. He now wants you to return to the forge, and emblazon your weapon with a rune of power. Once you successfully engrave one onto your sword, you return to Rasuvius, who reminds you that the rune forge can only be used here at Akaris, as well as certain parts located in Icecrown. But now comes the true trial. Rasuvius tells you that something called the Endless Hunger will soon take hold of you, and when it does, you will feel immeasurable pain. The only way to remedy the suffering is to have the hunger sated. In order to do this, Rasuvius wants you to free an unworthy initiate, one who was deemed unworthy of the Dark Brotherhood. Then allow him to be equipped for battle, and duel him to the death. Killing him will cause the pain to cease, but if you fail, then you'll suffer for eternity. So now you head down to the middle and free the initiate. Allow him to equip his gear, and fight him to the death until you win. Then you report back to Vesuvius. He tells you that you're ready for what lies ahead. He then goes on to explain what this building really is, and says that the Akaris is the grand citadel of death. Man, things are getting really deep. And that not even the mighty Naxxramas could stand an assault from the Ebonhold. Looming above the citadel is the all-seeing eye of Akaris. And while using it, the Lich King is able to see great distances into territories held by our enemies. What the eye sees, the Lich King sees. And now it's time to peer through the eye yourself. So from here, you report back to the Lich King. He says that it's time to spill the blood of our enemies. But first, you must learn what it is you seek to destroy. This right here is what separates a Death Knight from a mindless ghoul. And now, the Lich King wishes to grant you sight beyond sight, by using the Eye of Akaris to steal the enemy's secrets. Using the Eye, you will analyze the Scarlet Crusade fortifications in New Avalon. Specifically, you'll be analyzing the Forge, the Town Hall, the Hold, and the Chapel. So you use the Eye and analyze the 4 buildings you were told to check out. Then you report back to the Lich King. He says that it's expected that they're preparing for battle, but he also mentions that he senses an old enemy, an enemy that he destroyed long ago. But for now, he says that it doesn't matter, and that we'll send the full might of the Scourge against them. The Lich King then gives his final judgment: death to all. He wants you to speak to High Lord Mograine in the command post in Akaris, and tell him to begin the assault. And when the crusade has been dealt with, then we will finish off the Argent Dawn. So you head to the first floor, and meet up with High Lord Mograine, who then rewards you with the Bladed Ebon Amulet, before commanding you to lead the charge down below into New Avalon. He then says that Scourge Commander Thalanor is awaiting your arrival, at the balcony located directly southeast of our position. Once you meet with Thalanor, you're to requisition a Scourge Griffin to deliver you to Death's Breach, and meet up with Prince Valinar. But before you leave to do all of that, you speak with Lord Thorval. He tells you that within the Hall of Command, you will find the schools of Blood, Frost, and Unholy. Each school has a trainer and can provide you with knowledge in those respected arts. Lord Thorval is the headmaster of the School of Blood. Lady Alistra reigns over Unholy, and Amal Thazad holds dominion over the Frost. So if you ever need to learn more about those fields of study, you know who to talk to. Now, you head over to Thalanor, who tells you that the war has already begun, and says that he'll place you on his finest griffin, and deliver you to Death's Breach. So you hop on the griffin and fly down below, and once you arrive, you meet up with Prince Valinar, who tells you that it's time for bloodshed. He says that terror will be your first lesson in Scourge warfare. Your mission is to kill the Scarlet Crusaders, leaving their corpses so we can utilize them for something called the Death March. But most importantly, you need to kill the fleeing villagers. Because soldiers dying is an affordance, but villagers, that's what strikes the fear into the hearts of men. He wants you to kill 10 Scarlet Crusaders or 10 Scarlet Peasants, as well as 10 citizens of Havenshire. Before leaving, you run into Salinar the Horseman, who tells you that the Crusade has a stable full of horses, and that if you acquire one, Salinar will see what he can do in transforming it into a proper Death Charger. Also hanging around Death's Breach is Ulrun the Battle Caller. She talks about something called the Death's Challenge, which was born from the Lich King's victory over Illidan Stormrage in the heart of the Frozen Wastes. Death's Challenge is a rite of passage that all Death Knights must undergo. Pretty much what it is you seek out other Death Knights and challenge them to a duel, and then you fight them until somebody wins. Ulrun wants you to duel 5 different Death Knights to complete the challenge. And lastly, you run into Orithos the Sky Darkener. He says that the Sky Darkeners are mindless constructs with one purpose: kill. They're specifically targeting any man or woman fleeing from Havenshire to the safety of New Avalon. But the arrows that they're using are made from Serenite, and Serenite can only be found in Northrend. So needless to say, supplies are limited. Having said that, he wants you to retrieve 15 Serenite arrows in the area when you go out to attack. So from here, you head out to Havenshire and kill the 10 Scarlet Crusaders or peasants, as well as the 10 citizens. You also pick up 15 of the Serenite arrows lying in the field. And while you're out there, you decide to snoop into someone's mailbox. Inside is a letter addressed to High General Abendis in New Avalon. The letter's from a hunter named Danzel Adams, who's also a member of the Scarlet Crusade. He states that he's witnessed a miracle, and says that when he was killing the Scourge, his party and him looked up to the sky to see Naxxramas moving. And apparently this is a good thing for the Scarlet Crusade. So the last thing you do is steal a horse and bring it all the way back to Death's Breach. Once you return, Salinar says that the horse that you returned has been taken to the Realm of Shadows. In that realm, Salinar's Dark Rider will slay the horse and raise it as a Death Charger. He challenges you to enter the Realm of Shadows and kill the Dark Rider, thus claiming the Death Charger as your own. And once you return to Death's Breach, you're to use the Horseman's Call to summon Salinar. So now you enter the Realm of Shadows, and you kill the Dark Rider, and bring back the Death Charger to Death's Breach. Once there, you use the Horseman's Call to summon Salinar, who then tells you to return to the world of the living for your reward. And once you return, Salinar rewards you with the ability of calling upon your own Death Charger. Now, Prince Valinar says that the front lines are completely decimated, and that the Geist will finish off the last remnants of the job, preparing the grounds for Vesuvius when he arrives. He then rewards you with Valinar's signet ring for your work out in the field. Next, you meet with Orithos, the Sky Darkener, and return to him the 15 Serenite arrows. He rewards you as promised with a choice of a new cloak. Now the last thing you do is head back up to the Ebonhold and duel 5 Death Knight initiates for the Death's Challenge. After winning all 5 duels, you head back to Ulrun the Battle Caller and are rewarded with the insignia of the Scourge for a job well done. Now here's something very interesting. interesting. When walking around Death's Breach, you find a book under a canopy, and it's titled Account of the Raising of a Frostworm. Basically, it talks about a necromancer named Grand Necrolord Antioch, and how he performed the incantation to raise a frostworm. It's not part of any quest, but it's fun to read, and it describes how the bones spiral together, and once the frostworm is constructed, it dips its head in acknowledgement, stating that he's part of the Scourge now. So if you ever start a new Death Knight, take a moment and read the book. It's pretty good stuff. From here, you meet again with Prince Valinar. He says that the Crusade is in a frenzy, and that they've diverted all forces outside of New Avalon to set up a blockade at Light's Point east of here. Plus, they're stripping the Havenshire mine of all resources, and loading the cargo onto ships docked at the coast. Now, it's time to shake things up a bit. Gothic the Harvester, the Grand Necromancer of the Lich King, has graced us with his presence, and has a gift he'd like to bestow upon the Scarlet Crusade. From here, you seek out Gothic, and prepare to assault the Scarlet Crusade by delivering Gothic's gift, whatever that may be. Last time we learned that the Scarlet Crusade was stripping the Havenshire mine of all of its resources. We were then instructed to meet with Gothic the Harvester, who says that he has a gift for the Scarlet Crusade, one that will speed up their work at the mines. Now, Gothic originally came from the frozen heart of Naxxramas to feast on the souls of the enemy. So to help him out, he gives you the gift of the Harvester, and wants you to use it on the Scarlet miners working in the mine to turn them into ghouls. And once you've created 5 of them, you're to return to Gothic. So you head out to the mines, and use the gift of the Harvester to turn 5 miners into ghouls. After that's done, you return all of them back to Gothic. He says that the Scarlet Crusade knows that the mines aren't safe anymore, and that they'll double their efforts in retreating, leaving their backs completely open to us. And for having completed the task at the mines, he rewards you with the Soul Harvester's Charm. Gothic says that the Scarlet forces at New Avalon and at Light's Point are the only challenge that we have left. The diversion at the mines has caused chaos amidst the ranks, and they're frantically working to clear the area and return to the ships. So now it's time to take the fight to Light's Point. And to start that off, Gothic wants you to speak to Prince Valinar in order to get ready for the assault. So you report to Prince Valinar, who tells you that only a few of your Death Knight brethren have survived the initial attack on the Scarlet Crusaders. So basically, you're one of the stronger ones around. East of here, past the Havenshire mines, is the coast called Light's Point, and 1,000 soldiers stand between you and their ships. Valinar says that because the Scarlet Crusade is in such a hurry, they'll forget to check the mine carts being sent down from the mines to the coast. So now he wants you to head back to the mines, and climb into a cart that Valinar's minions have placed outside. From there, a Scarlet miner will take the cart past the forces that are stationed on the coast, and once you're behind enemy lines, you're to board the ship and use their own cannons against them. And when you're done slaughtering everyone, Valinar wants you to call upon a Scourge Griffin to return you back to Death's Breach. So you head out to the mine and jump into the minecart. And as predicted, a Scarlet miner takes you all the way down to Light's Point and past the enemy line. Once there, you man a cannon and begin to lay waste on the Crusaders. Once you're done, you call a Scourge Griffin to pick you up and bring you back to Death's Breach. Now, Valinar says that he'll receive a commendation from the Lich King because, well, you wiped out the entire Scarlet fleet in a matter of minutes. And because of that, he gets an award for it. But you get a pair of plated Serenite bracers. So, at least you get something, right? Now that Light's Point is taken care of, it's time to set your sights on New Avalon. Valinar says that he'll set the Firestarters and the Necromancers upon Havenshire, while you carry his report to High Lord Mograine, which he says that he's included your heroics in the report, so you're gonna get some recognition. Now you head back to the Ebonhold and deliver the report to High Lord Mograine. He's blown away that you annihilated the entire fleet, and says that he hasn't seen that kind of domination since his father wielded, something. What that something is, I don't know, because he doesn't continue the sentence, but rather just shakes his head and moves on to your commendation. It's like someone's got some daddy issues to work out. But he rewards you with a pair of engraved Serenite leggings for your actions at Light's Point. Mograine says that it's the will of the Lich King that drives us forward as Death Knights. He then closes his eyes, nods his head, and acknowledges the Lich King's commands that he just heard within himself, and relays the message back to you, stating that the Lich King commands that you return back to Death's Breach and report to Prince Valinar. So, you head back to Death's Breach and report to Prince Valinar. He says that 1,000 corpses litter the lands of Havenshire, just waiting for rebirth, while the ghouls have already begun their assault on New Avalon. The Crusaders' front line has been decimated by the attack, while a new forward base has been established at the Crypt of Remembrance. Valinar wants you to report to his brother, Prince Keliseth. He also says to prepare yourself for the next stage in Scourge warfare, domination. So now you head out to the crypt and meet up with Prince Keleseth, who says that he's the ruler of the southeastern reaches of Northrend, and says that he's here to satisfy his thirst for souls. He says that the ghouls attacking the front gates of New Avalon just isn't enough for the total annihilation that he really wants. Having said that, he wants you to make your way into New Avalon's town hall and assassinate the mayor of the town, Mayor Quimby. While you're there, he wants you to search for the New Avalon registry and bring it back to him. But before you leave, you speak with Baron Rivendare. He says that he's enjoyed his encounters with the Crusade over the years, and mentions that we shan't deny them eternal servitude to the Lich King. So while you're in New Avalon, he wants you to kill 10 Scarlet Crusade soldiers and 15 citizens of New Avalon. So from here, you head out of the crypt and run into Noth the Plaguebringer. He's been ordered to construct a plague cauldron in the middle of the pumpkin patch, but he needs materials to do so. While you're in New Avalon, he wants you to steal an empty cauldron from the inn, as well as a few chains from the forge. And while you're out there killing Crusaders, bring back 10 of their skulls while you're at it. So now you head into New Avalon and kill Mayor Quimby at the town hall. You also find the New Avalon registry. You then kill the 10 Scarlet Crusade soldiers, as well as the 15 citizens. And with them dead, you collect 10 of their skulls. The last thing you do is pick up the cauldron at the inn, as well as the pair of chains at the forge. Once that's all done, you head back to Noth. And upon returning the cauldron pieces, he rewards you with the Deathbringer's girdle for everything that you did in New Avalon. Now that the cauldron is ready, he says that the gases that it emits is deadly to the living, but that it also empowers the Scourge. He wants you to drop the 10 skulls that you acquired in New Avalon into the cauldron and witness the results. So you place the skulls in the cauldron and are rewarded with some of Noth's special brew. Now you head back down into the crypt and turn in the registry to Prince Keleseth, who then begins flipping through the pages and finds out that the Scarlet Crusade has already sent out 3 vessels straight to Northrend. Also, next to the given coordinates are the words Crimson Dawn. Now, Keleseth wants to know more, so he's tasked you with a trick that isn't unknown to him, and he gives you a jeweled box with a few persuaders inside, and wants you to use those persuaders on the Scarlet soldiers in order to get them to talk about what the Crimson Dawn really is. Basically, you get to torture people with a hot sword. Now, when speaking to Baron Rivendare, he says that you're quite effective with that blade, and perhaps with the Lich King's permission, you would be interested in becoming one of his minions, adding that Stratholme is looking for a new mayor, so congratulations, you just got a potential job opportunity from Baron Rivendare. He then rewards you with the Greaves of the Slaughter for everything that you've done so far. So now you head out and back into New Avalon, searching for Scarlet Crusaders to torture, and this is where most people lost their minds, spending nearly an hour to try and find someone to talk. One of the most stressful quests in this whole entire starting zone. But you end up finding one that's willing to spill his guts. He says that the Crimson Dawn is an awakening, and that the light speaks to the High General, and that this so-called movement was set in place before the Death Knights even arrived. Before the soldier dies from torture, he says that a courier is coming from Hearthglen, and before anything else can be said, the soldier dies from his pain. Now that you have some information about the Crimson Dawn, you head back to the crypt and speak to Prince Keleseth. He asks what kind of nonsense an awakening is, and says that it might be possible that this courier might have the answers that we're looking for. He then rewards you with Keleseth's signet ring for getting the information out of the soldiers. Now, Prince Keleseth has sent his servants Orbaz, Thessarian, and Koltira behind enemy lines, and they've set up a base of operations at the Scarlet Tavern, located at the southern end of New Avalon. Keleseth wants you to report to Orbaz Bloodbane, and he'll update you from there. So from here, you leave the crypt and head back into New Avalon, towards the Scarlet Tavern, to be updated by Orbaz and the plans to follow. Last time we were instructed to meet up with Orbaz Bloodbane, located at the Scarlet Tavern to the south of New Avalon, in order to find out more about the courier that was mentioned before. Now, Orbaz says that nobody has a clue when or where this guy is supposed to show up. He even points to a bunch of corpses that are lying on the ground, and says that they didn't even have information on him. But Orbaz was able to beat one thing out of the last guy. He said that inside the Scarlet Hold they keep a schedule of all patrol routes. So needless to say, Orbaz wants you to steal it. The Scarlet Hold is the largest building in New Avalon, located northeast of the tavern. When you speak to Thessarian, he mentions that breaking through the Scarlet lines wasn't an easy task, and that we suffered many casualties during the assault, and possibly lost one of the best Death Knights, Koltira. Thessarian says that the last time he saw Kultira, he was being dragged away bound in irons to the Scarlet Hold. So while you're in there, look for Kultira and try and save him. That is, if he's still alive. So you head out from the tavern and make your way into the Scarlet Hold, killing Crusaders until you find the registry upstairs. Then you head down to the basement to find Kultira. He says that it was foolish of you to come looking for him, and that the alarms have been sounded. He mentions that the High Inquisitor will be here soon, but Kultira is too badly injured to be of much use. But he'll do what he can. He wants you to kill High Inquisitor Valroth and return his head to Thessarian. Before things go down, Kultira tells you to tell Thessarian that the Scarlet Crusade is executing prisoners at the chapel, and that maybe you can be sent there to play the hero once again. So now Kultira gets up, puts his gear on, and protects you under an enclosed shield, while you fight off wave after wave of Valroth's forces, until High Inquisitor Valroth himself shows up, which you then fight him to the death. Kultira says that he'll draw the attention of the Crusaders while you make a run for it. But before you leave, you make sure to cut off Valroth's head. After that, you make your way back to the tavern and report to Orbaz and Thessarian. Upon giving the patrol schedule to Orbaz, he begins flipping through the pages and finds multiple patrol routes but nothing about a courier. But then he finds a western patrol route coming out of the Western Plaguelands, and that it's happening today. He then rewards you with Bloodbane's Gauntlets of Command for all the work that you did at the Hold. Now you return the head of Valroth to Thessarian, who then tosses it to the back room for the ghouls to eat, and asks if Kultira made it out okay, which he's certain that he did. He then gives you a Serenite war plate for helping out Kultira back in the Hold. Then he says it's time for some payback. Thessarian mentions that a Commander Plaguefist and a company of Death Knights are on their way to mess up the chapel that Kultira mentioned, and that if there are any Death Knights imprisoned there, Plaguefist will get them out. Thessarian wants you to report to the company and see what you can do to help. So you head out and make your way towards the chapel to speak to Commander Plaguefist. He says that they didn't find any other Death Knights inside, but they did stumble upon something special. When they arrived, they began tearing the place apart. Once they reached the prison house, they thought they would find their brethren there, but the prisoners weren't Death Knights, but rather members of the Argent Dawn. So they executed the ones that were still alive, but left one just for you. Plaguefist wants you to enter the prison house and execute Yasmina Oakenthorn. So you head into the prison and find Yasmina. She stands to get ready for her death, until she notices who you are. Now, this is going to be different for every race out there, but in this case, for a Night Elf Death Knight, Yasmina mentions that she was your caretaker when your mother would go work at the temple back at Teldrassil. She then tells you to fight the grasp of the Lich King, stating that he's a monster, and says that she doesn't want to see you used to accomplish the Lich King goals, which is ruining the whole entire planet. You then hear Commander Plaguefist calling out, asking what's taking so long. Yasmina realizes that there isn't much time left, and that you need to kill her or they'll kill you both. So, you unfortunately take Yasmina's life, and then you report back to Plaguefist. Man, that was some dark stuff right there. You pretty much just took out a family member. Plaguefist asks you if what you did felt good, and reminds you that you're no longer one of them, but that you're part of the Scourge now. He wants you to return to Thessarian, and tell him that Kultira's cry for vengeance has been answered, stating that the chapel will be a pile of ashes in a matter of hours. So you head back to the tavern, and report to Thessarian, who's pleased with your work and rewards you with the Signet of the Dark Brotherhood. Orbaz finally has a plan for dealing with the patrol route that's going on today. The Scarlet Courier is scheduled to pass by the Scarlet Overlook within the hour. Now the roads by the Overlook are swarming with Crusaders, so Orbaz hands you a makeshift cover to hide behind, and wants you to wait by the road until the courier shows up. Then when he does, strike him down and take his belongings, along with his clothing. So you head out, place the makeshift cover on the side of the road and hide behind it, and wait for the courier to come check it out. Once he realizes that it's a fake, you attack and kill him, taking his supplies along with his clothing. Then you return back to Orbaz. He begins going through the letters that the courier was holding and smiles, commenting that the armies of Hearthglen and Tirisfal that are on their way here are marching into a massacre. Now Orbaz has a second part to his plan. He wants to deliver a message right into the hands of High General Abendis, and that's what the courier's clothing is for. So now you're to head out to King's Harbor and deliver the message directly to High General Abendis, dressed as the courier. But before you head out, you might as well see what the message says. It's from High Commander Galvar Pureblood, and says that the armies from Hearthglen and Tirisfal are less than a day's ride from New Avalon, and that the Scourge will have to contend with the full might of the Crusade. So now you head out and travel to King's Harbor disguised as the courier. Once there, you meet up with High General Abendis, who's really upset and says that you should have been here 2 hours ago. Wonder why that happened. You hand her the letter and she reads it and freaks out, stating that the armies must not reach New Avalon because the Scourge will slaughter them all. She then tells you that New Avalon and Havenshire are completely overrun by the Scourge, and wants you to return a message to Commander Galvar. The message says, turn your armies around and prepare your ships for Northrend. She also hands you a journal and says this will explain everything. Wow. Yeah, we just won the lottery. Now that you have pretty much everything you could have asked for and more, you head back to Orbez. Once you return to the tavern, you hand Orbez the journal. He begins flipping through it and then bursts into laughter, sarcastically asking if this is really the Crimson Dawn, stating that they sail to their deaths going to Northrend, and then says that we should turn our focus onto the encroaching armies. Orbez says that we need to prepare for what's coming, and commands you to take what you've discovered to High Lord Darian Morgraine. And to make things easier, Orbez will open up a portal directly to the Ebonhold. So you use the portal and teleport to the Akeris, and then report to Darian. After telling him what you did, he says that you've become an instrument of doom, and tells you that we will ravage these approaching armies. He then rewards you with the blood-soaked Serenite-plated Spalders for all of your efforts in New Avalon. Now Darian says that the trap has been sprung, and that the armies of Hearthglen and Tirisfal have arrived, just in time to see their enclave in flames. And as we speak, he says that the Lich King awaits your return, and to seek him out at Death's Breach. So you head back to Death's Breach, and report to the Lich King, to find out what you're tasked to do to help out the Scourge and their attack on the Scarlet Crusade. When you report to the Lich King, he says that you've served him well, and that now it's time to finish what you've started, mentioning that the Scarlet armies make their final stand against us. The Lich King wants you to use the Horn of the Frostbrood to call upon one of his Frostbrood vanquishers, and destroy 10 Scarlet Ballistas, as well as kill 150 Scarlet soldiers. So you use the Horn, mount the Vanquisher, and destroy the 10 Scarlet Ballistas, as well as kill 150 of the Scarlet soldiers. Then you report back to the Lich King. He commands you to kneel, as he places the great helm of the Scourge Champion upon your head, stating that all that look upon you will know that death is coming. The king then looks to the west, towards Light's Hope Chapel, and says that there's only one task remaining. The Lich King says that the Scarlet Enclave is no more, and that the remains of the Crusade will be dealt with in Northrend. We now turn all of our efforts to Light's Hope Chapel. Scourge Commander Thalanor awaits your arrival, at the edge of Broman Mill. So now you head out, through the cave to the northwest, and push through to enter Broman Mill. Once there, you meet up with Commander Thalanor, who tells you that the Argent Dawn stands defiantly against us at Light's Hope Chapel, and that the Lich King's army stands at the ready. He wants you to report to High Lord Darian Morgraine, who will then issue the final march orders. So you speak to Darian, who happens to have Orbez, Thessarian, and Koltira standing right behind him, and you tell him that you're ready for the siege to begin. Darian mentions that this is the place where he sacrificed everything to free his father, and now he comes to destroy it. Maybe we'll get more insight on that story later on down the road, but for now he doesn't mention anything more on the subject. So now you wait for the call to attack. Darian raises more Scourge for the assault. Then you charge headstrong into Light's Hope Chapel. After fighting for a while, Darian calls for everyone to stand down. That's right, we lost. Now, stay with me because here comes a ton of information. High Lord Tyrion Fordring shows up and calls Darian out, telling him that he's become everything his father fought against. He also tells Darian that the Lich King knows what lies beneath Light's Hope Chapel, and for that reason he doesn't show his face. Now I'll just tell you right now, at this point he never mentions what's under the chapel. Hopefully we'll find that out later on. He then tells Darian that the Lich King sent the Death Knights in to meet their doom. At that moment, Darian has a vision of the past. He sees a younger version of himself speaking with his father, High Lord Alexandros Morgraine. Darian tells his father that he wants to fight alongside him against the undead. Alexandros tells him that he's not old enough, but in time, he'll wield his sword Ashbringer and mete out justice across the land. The vision fades as the Lich King appears. The Lich King then confirms with Tyrion that he did indeed send the Death Knights in to die, adding that their lives are meaningless. But it was enough to draw out Tyrion Fordring out of hiding. So yeah, Arthas used the Death Knights just to get to one guy. He then starts doing some Dark Scourge magic stuff, while Darian throws his sword to Tyrion, which transforms into Ashbringer, and he uses it on the Lich King to break his spell. After that, the Lich King retreats, leaving Darion and Tyrion to talk things out. Tyrion Fordring says that the Lich King must answer for what he's done, and must not be allowed to cause further destruction in our world. He makes a promise that the Lich King will be defeated, and states that the Argent Dawn and the Order of the Silver Hand will join as one, which then creates the Argent Crusade. Darion chimes in and declares the Knights of the Ebonblade as allies to the Crusade. And even though they have no place in this world, they vow to bring the Lich King down. Darion says that a haze has been lifted, and that he can see as clearly now as the day that he plunged Ashbringer into his own heart, to free his father's cursed soul, and that was basically the last memory he had as a free man. Again, more story stuff that I hope will come up later on down the road. He now says that we need to take back the Ebonhold, and has taught you how to call forth a Death Gate, which will teleport you back to the Akeris. So from here, you use the Death Gate, and teleport directly back to the Ebonhold. Once you're there, you report to Darion. He says that the Lich King has returned to Northrend, wounded by Ashbringer. But here at the Akeris, the second floor still holds the last of his armies. Darion says that the Hall of Command has been secured, but the Lich King left us a little present in the heart of Akeris, the Stitched Terror, Patchwork, along with some other abominations. Darion wants you to use the teleporter to get to the second floor, and once there, you're to take out Patchwork, along with 10 other Scourge. So you teleport to the second floor, and kill Patchwork, along with 10 Scourge that are in the surrounding area. Then you return to Darion to report. He says that you've done a great job, and that he has one more task for you. Darion says that you will always be a Knight of the Ebonblade, but before this you were once a hero of either the Horde or the Alliance, depending on which race you chose for your Death Knight. He now wants you to establish allies with your respective faction, by representing the Knights of the Ebonhold. Darion then gives you a letter, and wants you to deliver it to the leader of the Horde or the Alliance, again depending on which race you chose. From here, and at the time of this video posting, if you're Alliance you head to Stormwind, and if you're Horde you head to Orgrimmar. Once you arrive to the city, people begin throwing rotten fruit at you for what you've done as a Death Knight, shaming you and calling you a murderer. For the Alliance, King Anduin says that you have moments to live upon your arrival. You hand him the note, which is actually from Tyrion Fordring, which then clears you from being put into irons, as Anduin says that only an endorsement from one of the greatest paladins to ever live could have ensured your survival, and says that we will work together against the Scourge and the Lich King. As for the Horde, you arrive in Orgrimmar, and make your way to report to High Overlord Saurfane, who says that because of Tyrion's actions in uniting the Ebonblade, that he'll accept you as a member of the Horde and the Order of the Ebonblade as established allies. And that sums it up for the Death Knights. There is a ton of backlore that the quests don't explain, and if you want to dig in deeper into that, then I suggest reading some of the novels or maybe looking up deep lore videos on YouTube. But if learning about the quest lore is your thing, then consider subscribing to the channel. And a huge shout out to the Patreon subscribers for supporting this project. If you'd like to help out, then go ahead and check out the Patreon link down below. And with that, we'll see you next time when we find out what happens next in the Tales of Azeroth.